Yo, Joe. Talking comics, here's your host. It's A Real American Brian.
I'm back, and Johnny's here, and he brought 3 friends along with him.
Yeah, I mean, you were gonna say thruple. It's definitely not. It is 3 friends. Destro, she's like, hey, Destro, it's an A-B conversation, so see your way out of here. Also, my first animation I just did. Congrats right there to myself for doing that. Baroness is going to kind of walk over and see what's going on with him. This is Darklon. Obviously, a super rare G.I. Joe classified figure. I think it was a Japanese import and very hard to get. I wouldn't even try looking online for it because you're not going to find it. You're probably just going to have to make your own because that's actually what I did. I went to you, Brian, and said, you know, let's talk about conversions. And you're like, well, I pulled off a Larry Hama that you're pretty proud of. And I'm like, that's pretty good. I saw it. That's a really good one. But then I did a couple of head swaps. You know, I got Macho Man's head on Cable's body for like a General Savage with it's got a gung ho's cap on. I've got Deadpool's head on a Flint body. He's kind of just snuck in. I got a few minor head swap conversions, but I decided I want to do a more elaborate one. And I'm not super creative as far as like the building of things and converting and painting. But on this one, I basically said, you know, here's some ideas. And I kind of share some with you a little bit with what I wanted to do. And you sent me a link to, is it JS Armory?
Yep.
Very cool bits. I will say he's got a nice selection of heads, but you got to paint them. So and there's some really good ones. Like I saw a really cool John Bernthal one, which what a great Punisher opportunity to use him, you know. But I'm not really much of a painter. I bought this pack though, the Darklon set. It had the helmet, and I forgot what piece went with him. What other piece? It was helmet, and it might have been this chest piece, and then a little armband which broke off as I didn't use that. And then the other pack was his gun and the big knife. Well, that's a knife. And and there's little grenades down here too. All in all, I think is probably like a $40 pack when you combine the two, which, you know, talking about that plus figure bits, but it's something fun I want to do. I like the character. When I got this graded from you saw it on a previous episode with you, I thought it'd be kind of cool. I'll do a figure. I will say right off the bat, I pretty much made the creative decision to go do away with the orange-red pants. It's just cool for comics, but it ends up looking a little too superhero-y when you try to put him next to realistic military figures. So I went with black pants on this one, and I'll go through the different parts in a second. But that was my initial thought: was find something green up top, get the conversion pack, and get something dark on the rest of it, and kind of go from there. Before I get into how I built it, what are your honest thoughts, Brian? And feel free to trash it. If you do, I'm going to hit end call and just call it a day.
No, I like it. I think it turned out really well. I like the black pants. I think that's some of the classified series, like not the first wave where it got goofy, but you have like they leaned into the original look of the figure, but then updated it just slightly. And I think that's like a good, nice, modern update.
Thanks. Yeah, that was what I was going. Because I actually thought about, at first I was thinking I could do Barbecue's legs because actually would be the right skin tone. He's on a bit of a bigger body though, so it might look a little weird, as in like a extra, I don't know, elongated kind of legs. And then I thought, should I paint him? I learned something early on. Anyone watching this who has painted action figures knows this that I maybe didn't realize, but how quickly the paint chips off when you just look at it and it comes off. You and I, Brian, we have many years of experience in miniature gaming and Warhammer, that kind of stuff. And you probably prime it sticks on there and all that, and it just doesn't work the same. So I realized that early on with painting. So I thought if I were to find even lighter pants and paint them orange and red, it's going to look pretty beat up real quick. You start sliding out accessories on there or even just adjusting, it's going to look bad. So I pretty much made the decision right away and said, I'm going to get a torso that's green plastic. I'm going to get legs, that's black plastic. The rest I'll figure out and I can paint. That way, at least the bulk of the figure is colored plastic and not paint, because I knew that it would not end well. And I'm sure there's tactics. You could probably prime it and do a whole thing. I'm not doing that. I really don't like painting. I didn't want to deal with it. But yeah, so thanks for the kind words. So if we're starting at the top here, I'll run through the actual bits. JS Armory supplied the helmet. I don't know if you can see, I did the red eyes. Is it coming in?
Yeah.
Okay. I did some gunmetal dry brushing. It's not quite as prominent as I thought, but that's actually okay, because it is, I mean, if you look at, it's steel. And I figured if I did too much dry brushing or too light, it may end up looking just steel, like a Destro kind of thing, and not black. I might do another one over it at some point, but I think it's fine. It did pick up on some of the edges where it's at. So helmet, JS Armory, a little bit of red paint in the eyes, a little bit of gunmetal dry brushing. Torso. This was a tough one. I will tell you that I went back and forth on both with figures I own and looking online and see what would work. My initial thought was going to be, I was going to actually use this torso. You can see a little bit of another conversion I did on this one. Bit of a rogue kind of trooper of sorts. But then I'm thinking a couple things. One, it was a little too thin for what I wanted to do. And two, I don't want it to be an obvious, well, that's the Python Patrol Trooper. Like, in a weird way, Brian, it's kind of like when we played, miniature games where when you do a conversion, I don't want someone to go, oh, that's an Ultramarine. I don't want right off the bat a dismissal because they recognize the parts too easily. So I was like, it's not going to be good, but I did use his legs. So his legs are actually these are the old Firefly legs. There's going to be a new one coming, which I'm excited about. So why not hack it off and put him on there? And I gave him, I believe that's Mandalorian's cloak, or it might be, I'm not sure if it says or not. I don't know, but anyway, we're not here to talk about this one. That's a different episode. He does look kind of badass, though. Do you agree?
Yeah, he looks better than what he did before.
Well, that's a compliment, and I'll take it. I did have his helmet on his gun holster, though. All right, so onto the torso. This is actually Scorpion, the Spider-Man villain from Marvel Legends. He is an all green figure, obviously, and a very long, bendy tail. I ripped off the tail out of his back. I left a hole there. I might drill a larger hole to squeeze a backpack in, or not, or just leave it as is. I actually thought the black piece was going to cover it because the black piece has a little notch to go in the backpack hole, but that's to go in the backpack hole of existing Stalker size, Flint size, Duke size figures. That's what this kit, I should have mentioned, the JS Armory kit. He had a version for those figures, and then he has a version for Gung Ho Roadblock type figures. I went with the smaller set. This torso is a little wider, which I wanted him a bit bulkier. Once again, I'm trying to sort of emulate this a little bit, and he looks pretty jacked there. So I wanted to give him a little bit of beef across the the pecs. So that makes sense why it's not covering the little hole there. But I might still do a backpack or something at some point. So yeah, Scorpion from Marvel Legends torso. It has dark green hands and wrists and under the neck. And I painted black here. The hands are from Valaverse. It's either the I think it's not the Desert Trooper, one of the Valor figures that, because they give you extra hands and they're great. Did have to clip the nubs a little bit, and they're glued in, so they're not moving. They're glued in there. This one, I put this kind of wrist piece on there too, or forearm piece. Really liked it a lot. I thought I had another one, and if I find that other one, I'm going to put it on this one. I thought this was from a Joe figure because Roadblock, the old Roadblock had them, but they were bigger and silver. So I don't remember exactly which, because it was in my bits box, who came with that. I don't think it was one of the larger figures, though. I think it was one of the standard, male size figures, but I just don't remember which one. I thought I had a second one. Maybe I'll try to find it. And yeah, after I put this on, by the way, the paint all scraped off here. So I actually painted on top of this once I got the wrist piece on, painted more in there because it really scraped this up bad. Once again, the hand is also from a Valiverse figure as well, because they got nice different types of hands. You get extra when you buy a Valiverse figure, so why not put those to use? And that way, it also allowed me to use a fist and a standard holding non-trigger finger, but like a standard holding one there. And moving down in the figure, like I said earlier, it is the Python Patrol lower half legs, and I left his belt on too. It's just a good belt. It's got a little pistol over there, and it also helped me when I was gluing the torso to here. Yes, it's glued, so they're not. It can go this way, but not that way. It also helped putting a little bit of glue with the belt around the pants, gave it a bit more of a stable base to put the figure on, because the figure is only a thin outside ring. And so at least if I got wider things to glue it to, it made it a little stable, and it slid right in, and pretty seamless. Looks pretty clean there. The knife is from the JS Armory kit for Darklon, as is these grenades and this big ass gun over here. And left the feet as is from the Python Patrol Trooper. So all in all, I'm happy I bought the Python Patrol Trooper, because I made him into a cool kind of, different looking kind of dude there. But also I enjoyed getting his legs for this. It made the Darklon figure taller too. These legs, they're not tall by any means, but they were better than some of the extra legs I had. So with that said, if I put him next to Baroness, he's taller. If I put him next to Destro, they're about the same. There's the up there. Even I would say Destro's shoulders are a tad bit higher, but Darklon's mask makes him a bit taller. So it's kind of a weird, perspective there, but he fits in well with the exact size I want him to be. Oh, and last but not least, so I mentioned that this piece came in the JS Armory kit. This wasn't supposed to be a little tiny piece that went with it, resin. It unfortunately snapped off, and I know why. Not any fault of the JS Armory kit. It was made for Stalker Flint Duke arm. This is a bigger arm. So it was just resin, I'm guessing, and it was at a certain point, it was like, okay, that's enough. It's not sticking. So this piece is actually from the movie Deadpool figure that is now a parts figure for me, because I've sort of just used a bunch of different pieces from it for different things over the years. And one of them was part of his like weapon harness. And I thought, what's cool about that is without cutting it, it blends in on the back, like it connects, blends in here. It doesn't actually connect. It just kind of lays in there, but it looks like it connects. And I put a little dab of glue right there in the piece. So it's still movable, but it's somewhat stuck to the arm. There's no glue on this piece at all. That's just there. It's stuck pretty well. I also wedged the gun into it as well too. So this arm is kind of like bookending the whole thing in there a little bit. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy with the conversion. It's pricier than what most would want to look at. Because if you think about it, I bought the Scorpion figure just for the torso. That was $22. So that was just for the torso. The legs I already had from another figure from that one, so that's fine. This armband too. The conversion kit, though, I believe they were either each 20 or each 22 or 23. So all in all, with tax, 45-ish on the conversion kits, and then an extra 20 for the torso. We're looking at $65. That was out of pocket to make it, but it's fine. You know what? I bought a Hiss. I think I can handle it. It's not breaking the bank, and it is my first real conversion. I don't count the other ones I did as proper conversion. I think not, and I'm not trying to say if you did a head swap, that's not a conversion, but in my eyes, it's just a head swap. It's not anything, more than that. If you actually did modifications, like literally, you're cutting the torso from another body and some painting, to me, that's a real conversion. with not a lot of work in this case.
Yeah, it turned out really good.
Thank you. Thank you for your look. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I do need to get some chains and handcuffs at some point and add that. I didn't notice. It's really funny. When I was making it, I didn't realize that in this and some of the other art I saw that it was more yellowish when it was on. I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I thought the Python Patrol right off the bat was going to be a better fit, but I'm fine with it. There's another cover from the same arc that you've seen and maybe you even have on file where he's got a much darker green, and so it seemed to fit that style a little more.
But if they release a Darklon, are you going to buy it?
Yeah, I would buy it, but here's my dilemma. You know me, I have a Highlander rule with action figures. I have one of anything. It's just my own rule. So when I get a new figure, it replaces, or sometimes I say the older one's better. Sometimes an older one is better, but most of the time something newer is better. And I end up waiting until I get a bunch of them, like 10 or so figures, and I throw them all on eBay, and somebody will buy them all for like $100 or something. But so with that said, if Darklon came out as an official classified figure, yes, I would buy it. But then what happens? I mean, would I buy it? And I have my one out, or my one caveat, so to speak, would be sometimes I bring figures to my work office and put them up. It doesn't count anymore then. So I have a Snake Eyes at work, but it doesn't count as, you know. So maybe I don't know what I would do. How could I let a conversion, like how would I can never get rid of it. I made it, you know, and it costs too much to make, so I can never do that. Now, would I make Darklon and then his unknown brother Jeff Lon? Maybe Darklon and Jeff Lon.
I think Jeff Lon should be another cousin, because Darklon's cousins with Destro, so you just add another cousin to it.
Well, I think we said his full name is Jeff Darklon, I believe is the last name, and but yeah, another cousin, maybe like Larry and his brother Daryl, a few other cousins in there. Yeah, so I would definitely get one, but it would be a hard decision on what the next steps would be. Or do I take the new one and this one and make the ultimate conversion by using the real bits and some of my own little ingenuity? I don't know.
Maybe.
I say my own, but it's JS Armory's ingenuity. Head glued, torso glued. That's it. So it makes me feel, and hands are glued. It makes me feel better about it being stable. I'm more of the type of, like, let me ask you, Brian, if you had to choose between the ability to make different poses and playable, we'll say playing with them, versus just stability on a shelf, do you have a preference?
I mean, my ultimate preference would be give me options and then let me pick my favorite pose, and that's probably never going to change. So at that point, I'd be okay with it glued.
Okay. That's kind of my thought is I think I have, so this, I mean, that arm is, remember I said it was glued? I wasn't lying, it was glued. Yeah, so I was trying to do it. It doesn't, see though, the joint, it's got a little grain in there. So that was the other thing too, I forgot to mention. When you have to do any painting, sometimes it might be best to get some of the painting done right away, like just to start, and then get it in the pose you want, then paint the rest. Because just by moving joints might either mess something up, scrape something, or expose a part that wasn't part of your painted. So I like I don't mind a little bit static. I like some movability, but knowing that this is a conversion, it's fine if I could glue the entire thing and I wouldn't be mad. But I just stuck with what I did anyway.
Yeah, I think it turned out great. And thank you for coming on and sharing it with everybody here on the channel.
Thank you for having me. I love being a guest. It's probably my 10th appearance. I'm hoping for 10 more.
Yeah, maybe. Who's counting though?
Me. And Darklon.
All right.
so long from Brian. Until next time, same Brian time, same Brian channel.